Sunday, February 16, 2014, 8:15 a.m. Justin, our office manager, is of Japanese heritage. I haven't mentioned this before, probably because it isn't really relevant to anything other than the explanation of how he got his name. Justin was born in Perth, but his parents weren't. They are from Osaka. Justin's real name, as recorded on all official documents I've seen, is Hiroshi Kase. His father migrated from Japan in the early 80s to work as an engineer in the mining sector, and his wife followed shortly afterwards. A couple of years later, little Hiroshi was born. His mother thought he needed an Australian name for everyday use, and quite liked Justin, even if she has always felt the need to add an extra syllable. Apparently she calls him Jasutin. Sadly, Justin's mother didn't realize that her chosen Australian name doesn't go quite so well with the surname. I mean, it should when you think about it from a Japanese perspective. Kase is pronounced Ka-se, and Justin, Jasutin, Kase sounds perfectly ordinary and respectable. But to most people here in Australia, the surname looks like it should be pronounced Case. Justin hates being called Case. Either way, Justin Case almost ruined it for me on Friday. I think I would have got away with everything had he not called our home number at about 11:30 to see if there was any news. Unfortunately, Kylie just happened to be at home when the phone rang. Rotten luck indeed. Of course, Kylie didn't know anything about what had happened to me at the office or afterwards. My failure to send her even one text didn't bode well. It was assumed something serious must have happened. So Kylie rang Royal Perth Hospital. As you might expect, she came up with zilch. No Dan Djurdjevic had been admitted to the accident and emergency department. She then rushed down to the A&E with Narcisse in tow to see if I was waiting in the foyer area. Brad met them there with Mr. Dixon's blessing. My parents were also called. When I was nowhere to be found, everyone went into a full-scale panic. By this time I was sitting in the surgery of Dr. Singh up in Kareen, reading a magazine. Yes, some great National Geographics. I'd caught a taxi there, following my interview. I figured that I needed something to corroborate my extra day off, even if I already had a certificate for the whole week. Dr. Singh no longer bulk bills, so I really resented the expense. But, like the hefty tip to the taxi driver, it had to be done. I remember the receptionist taking a call and looking up at me somewhat curiously. "Yes, Mrs. Djurdjevic," I heard her say. "Your son is here. Yes, he's been waiting a while. Dr. Singh is running behind schedule." "No, he won't be too much longer. Yes, you can speak to him. Hang on, I'll put you through." Meanwhile, I was busy fishing my HTC phone out of my pocket, cursing the fact that I keep it on silent. Sure enough, there were a dozen or so missed calls, 3 voice messages and 2 texts. I was in big trouble all over again. "Hello, Mum." You can guess the rest. Luckily for me, I'm a quick thinker. I told them I'd gone to Royal Perth Hospital, but the queue for triage was so long that after an hour and a half of waiting to be processed, I decided it would be quicker to go to Dr. Singh's. Besides, I said, I was feeling much better, so I took a taxi up to Kareen to see my GP. That all seemed reasonable, didn't it? All things considered, I got off pretty lightly. Kylie and Mum scolded me severely for never answering my phone, being absent-minded, not thinking of them, ever. Kylie burst into tears and Mum hugged her. Narcisse went outside into our front yard to smoke, slamming the front screen door as he did so. I need to fix that spring. My father and Tula gave me quiet, sad looks that implied, "Why do you keep messing up?" But other than that, it seemed I'd gotten away with my ruse. Of course, if any of them had bothered to do the maths, they might have noticed a discrepancy in my timeline of about an hour and a half. Thankfully, no one did, except Justin. He's a dangerous one. He called me at home last night to say, I'm on to you, mate. You went and goofed off somewhere, didn't you? Probably sat in some cafe with a nice latte before dragging yourself off to your GP. I wouldn't be surprised if you faked the whole thing just to get out of work. You think you're such a smarty pants, but I tell you what, I'm smarter. I've done a log of your internet usage, and guess what I found? YouTube and Facebook, that's right, and Twitter and Blogger. I wondered how you did this, and then I went to your computer and saw you'd changed the DNS settings. What makes you think you can get away with that sort of thing, eh? This is going on your file, mate. I'm lodging a formal complaint against you with Mr. Dixon. You're going to have all your internet privileges revoked. You can count on that. Just in case is plain mean. Kylie noticed that I was speaking to him and must have wondered what it was all about, but hasn't bothered to ask me. We're no longer on speaking terms. Whatever détente my marriage recently enjoyed has been set aside. Kylie is once again treating me with open derision. Right now, Kylie is about to head off to Sunday morning yoga. Bugsy and I are on our way to the kitchen to get breakfast, and she passes us in the corridor with an icy silence befitting the height of the Cold War. I pour Bugsy some of his biscuits and scoop out a tin of his fish, and then settle down at the bench top to have my cereal. Thankfully, the scavenger weekend concept has fallen by the wayside, as I had predicted. Sadly, it only takes minutes to confirm that our household may soon be subject to another fad, PP to PP. She raises the issue rather abruptly and unexpectedly, particularly since we haven't been talking since Friday. You never told me about Brad's business. Kylie is standing on the landing above the kitchen, holding her keys with one hand, the other resting on her hip, her lips fixed in a pout. Don't know if I'd call it a business exactly, Pumpkin. He just gave some guy from church $2,000 for pretty much no good reason. That's not how Brad explained it, she snorts. Anyway, that's exactly what he said you'd say, something negative. I think that might be why he's so successful and you're not. He sees opportunities to better himself, but all you ever see are reasons not to. It is clear that the same issues have been simmering beneath the surface for some time. Our détente has had all the sincerity of a North Korean news broadcast. We were only ever putting off the inevitable, fundamental disagreements that are driving a wedge into our marriage. For the time being, I decide to stick to the PP to PP issue. Kylie, it's just another multi-level marketing scam. Brad's been tricked into giving someone money, and now he's hoping to trick someone else into giving him at least the same amount of money back. There's no business here. It's just greed. Kylie screws her face up in disbelief. I don't get how you can be so rude. I know Nick, and he's a really nice person. He wouldn't trick anyone. He's got a business, and you're just jealous because you're a failure. At this, I put my spoon down. Even Bugsy stops eating and looks up. After a while, I decide to say this. If I'm such a failure, why have I just been given a special promotion? Pah! Kylie does one of her famous snorts. You're just dreaming, or you're lying. I don't know which is worse. So it's always one or the other. Brad's already told me that you're not being promoted, probably ever. Mr. Dixon hates you, and it's all because you never try. You don't care. Kylie starts to choke up. You don't care about us. She bursts into tears. I can see she's genuinely sad, albeit in a misguided way. She genuinely believes what she is saying. The idiot that I am, I can't help feeling sorry for her, for me, for everything. She's sobbing on the landing as I walk up and try to put an arm around her. Come here, babe, I say softly. It's not like that at all. But Kylie is having none of it. She pushes me away roughly and continues crying, her face rapidly becoming a mess of streaked mascara. I can never understand why she wears makeup to exercise classes. Now, I persevere despite increasingly violent resistance, until she finally relents and pushes her head into my chest, her body racked with hiccuping sobs. You know, I say to her, Brad doesn't know everything. Some things have to be kept a secret. I pull her away and cup her face gently. Listen to me. I really am getting a special kind of contract. Basically a big promotion. It's because I introduced CIQ Iron to the firm. Dixon has been forced to give it to me. It's all signed, sealed, and delivered. I just found out last night, but you were too angry for me to tell you. Kylie pulls away, her face a puzzled mix of tears and confusion. She looks like a troubled panda. What do you mean? What I mean is that CIQ want me. I'm making this up as I go along, by the way. They've put pressure on Mr. Dixon to let me do some special work for them. Dixon doesn't like it, but he's had to say yes. Is this some sort of joke? No, sweetie, really it isn't. That's what last night's call was all about. Remember? I figured that I need to explain that call somehow. This might be the best way to do it. That's ridiculous. That was Justin on the phone. I could hear him. He was angry. He and Mr. Dixon both absolutely hate you. Why would they give you a promotion? Do you really expect me to believe this? I sigh and lower my voice. I know it's hard to believe, but Dixon and I have reached an understanding. Justin, well, he's just the reluctant messenger. Soon, very soon, I'll be making a lot more money than I am now. Way more. It'll be enough to make us very, very comfortable. Kylie pushes me away roughly. You are being cruel. That's impossible. I chuckle in response. No, you'll see. The first extra pay is due in about 3 weeks' time. Kylie looks at me skeptically, but I'm still laughing. Okay, I say finally. If I'm wrong, well, you can, I don't know, divorce me or something. But you'll see, I'm telling you the truth. How much more money? What are we talking about here? I think Kylie's starting to think that I might indeed be serious. I grab her shoulders, earnestly, and try to look into her smudgy eyes. Well, I say carefully, it'll be almost double what I'm making now. Actually, it's going to be much more than that, but I can't tell her everything now, can I? Kylie is staring at me in a state of shock. And how can you expect me to believe this? Then suddenly she seems to have an idea. She draws closer to me and stares deeply into my eyes. She's always thought she could tell if someone was lying by examining their irises. She did a course in iridology a couple of years ago, where a guru told her how to do it. At the same time, I'm noticing that Kylie's eyes are flushed pink with raised capillaries. Yes, she says at last, her voice a mere whisper. I think you're telling me the truth. I smile and kiss her on the forehead, which is easy. She is so short. See? Tell you what, Pumpkin. Go and freshen up so you're not late for yoga. I'm going to go off to do some of my secret business, which actually means I have to do some work for CIQ Iron. I'll be back for lunch, then we can go out to celebrate. Maybe take a trip out to Hillary's Boat Harbor. They have boutiques there, and you can buy anything you like. Maybe we'll go to a cafe, have a stroll and an ice cream. What do you reckon? Kylie is still looking at me quizzically. She walks to the bathroom, then stops and turns to stare at me, then starts walking again. I go back to my cereal. I haven't even managed to put another spoonful in my mouth when she comes back out. You mean to say that all this whole time you've been planning something this big? Yep, I say, putting the spoon in my mouth and smirking all the while. And now it's all finally coming together. That's why I was faint on Friday. I was under stress, waiting to see if Dixon would cave in and agree to the deal. And he has. That call from Justin was just confirmation. He's the only other person who knows about it. So what is this special contract? Just boring legal stuff, Pumpkin. You wouldn't want to hear the details. A couple of big mergers and acquisitions. It just means that I have to do some extra work for CIQ. But this time it's just me and not Brad. And for this work, CIQ is going to pay our firm a huge bonus. They wanted me, but I told Dixon that I would only do it if I got the lion's share of the bonus. He was forced to agree, otherwise another firm was going to get the work. So you can see why Dixon is mad. He has to pay me the money that he would normally get. That's the last thing he wants to do. Justin, well, he's just a dickhead. I pause. But listen, sweetie, this is important. I've had to promise not to say anything or else the deal is off. I'm not allowed to mention it, not ever, not even to Dixon or Justin. It's part of our agreement. We've put it all in writing. I've signed the papers and everything. Kylie nods and starts to walk away, then reconsiders and comes back. Okay, so why didn't you tell me about this sooner? I chuckle. And get your hopes up? I don't think so. And what if you had accidentally told Brad at tennis or yoga or something, just when the negotiations were in the balance? That would have killed everything. You know you aren't good at keeping secrets, honey. Kylie nods in agreement. This is something she can't deny. In fact, she's only too happy to admit it, because she thinks it'll get her off the hook when she blabs something she wasn't meant to. I'm so sorry, I couldn't help it. It's just my nature. The good thing about spinning a yarn like this to Kylie is that she loves a conspiracy theory, and the more complex the story gets, the more she's prepared to believe it. Right now, she's standing in the corridor stunned. So, we're really going to be getting like double our pay? Yep, I keep eating my cereal and smiling. This part is all true. She's not to know that inwardly I'm quietly panicking about how I'm going to cope with the idea of replicating myself so that I can do 2 jobs at the same time. There are so many details I've yet to work out, and less than a week to do it. But at least my current bravado is real. There are some things you can't fake. I know I've just been offered a job, one that pays very nicely. Thank you very much. And unlike my counterfeiting idea, it's totally legit. So, how long does this last, this special contract? Long enough, sweetheart. At least a year, but more likely 2 or even more. After that, who knows? I'll have these great contracts and an amazing CV. It's a win-win. For the first time in a long time, I have Kylie grinning with sheer pleasure. She pumps her fist in the air. I knew you could do it! I knew it! Instead of going to the bathroom as she'd planned, she runs up to me, grabs my head roughly in her hands, and gives me a hard kiss on the lips, forcing her tongue into my cereal-filled mouth. When she's finished, she steps back and points her finger at me. You, mister, are going to get lucky tonight. Money has always been the biggest aphrodisiac for Kylie. The smile slowly fades from my face as she disappears excitedly to the bathroom to clean up. One way or another, today is going to be a very big day. I have a lot to decide, a lot to work out, and a lot to do. I'd be lying if I didn't admit to being petrified. Nothing is scarier than the unknown. I think that's because your imagination always trumps that which exists in the real world. It's like being given a huge number. No matter how big it is, your imagination is able to respond with +1. At least now I don't have to sneak around anymore. I can only hope that Kylie keeps our big secret to herself. I'll have to keep reiterating that the deal is off the moment she blabs. I'm comforted by the fact that when money starts to talk, Kylie generally stays quiet.